What is up, my friend? Hope you're doing awesome. We're going to be talking about self-regulation and clarifying some things and just very casually having a discussion, even though it's just going to be me talking. But I wanted to just pour out everything that I have to say, generally speaking, about self-regulation. I know that in this pillar, you've got, in the self-regulation pillar, you've gotten different videos and stuff. I tried my best to systematically approach self-regulation, but it seems like there's still quite a bit of questions. Some of that was, actually most of it was because people didn't watch the video where I actually clarified some things as far as, do you have to tense your muscles before you relax them during self-regulation? How many times do you have to do it a day? And I went and checked, and like nobody had actually watched the video. So I had to add the prerequisites option on, or not option, but the prerequisites requirement back on the course, meaning that you have to watch all the videos now. And I know it's annoying, but there's actually freedom in that, because you have to get the download of everything that's in there before you move on to the next video. And you know, people usually don't finish courses. In fact, like 3% of people actually finish online courses, but I'm going to ask that you don't do that with this one, simply because there's no fluff in there. Every single video is necessary for your recovery. And literally, I took it from 10 pillars down to 4 pillars, and I took out so much stuff that's not necessary for you to beat this. But especially in the self-regulation pillar, I mean, watch those videos like 10, 20 times, right? Really, with all of the pillars, like take this course about 20 times, which I know that sounds crazy, but just like anything, you have to recondition yourself, and you have to go through that process of learning stuff. We actually retain a very small percentage of information when we're first exposed to it. So a lot of people started asking questions, which is understandable. I think like in the last 48 hours, I've had like 150 course students sign up, because I did that a sale. That maybe that's why you're watching this, is because you were a part of that sale. But anyway, welcome. And I wanted to go ahead and I'll probably just summarize a lot of what's in the videos before this, but I at least just wanted to give you another chance to hear about self-regulation from as many different perspectives as possible, and also maybe me give like some demonstrations and try to explain it in as many ways as I can. Okay. With that being said, the first thing that we need to know is we're perceiving threats subconsciously. And the reason why we're doing that is because all the time, 24/7, well, I say 24/7, all the time that we're awake, our brain is constantly scanning our environment and taking pictures, all right? And everything gets stored in our brain from the time that we're a childhood. And with some of these images, or some of these sounds, or feeling or touch or smell, we start to create associations. And some of those associations are neutral. Some of those associations are dangerous. And some of those associations are safe. Let me give you a good example. Whenever you were a kid, you had a certain adult figure, hopefully most of you did, that you felt calm around. You associated the way that they look, smell, touch, the way that they feel, we wouldn't say taste in this case, but the way that they sound, and maybe their voice, their facial expressions, their body language. Could have been a teacher, could have been a father, a mother, could have been a grandma, grandpa, aunt or uncle, friend, somebody at church. We've all got that person that whenever we were around them as a kid, we couldn't explain it, but there's something about them that calmed us down and made us feel in a state of safety. Well, that's because over time, we experienced them via our 5 senses. Our brain experienced them via our 5 senses, and we responded with relaxation in our body over and over again, to the point that we created what's called a procedural memory, meaning that whenever we're around them, we're subconsciously going to activate certain physiological postures, certain things happen in our mind, and also maybe even our emotions, etc. So once you understand that, you understand that it not only works for positive things, such as feeling calm around a person, but it also works equally for whenever we feel scared. Let me give you an example. Again, this is all just off the top of my head. I'm just flowing with this just to pour into you as much as I can. So let's say that there's a bully, which I have a history of being bullied. I don't anymore because karate chop. You know what I'm saying? I got a beard now. No, this is kind of stupid. Okay, what the heck's going on? But anyway, I have a history of being bullied from the time that I was in kindergarten until I started training mixed martial arts and learning how to punch people's faces in. Whenever I was about 16, I was severely bullied. I'm not like, that's no exaggeration. I'm talking like beat up multiple times, constantly threatened, harassed. I mean, it was just, even like I feel it right now. Whenever I talk about it, I feel that tension in my body. That's how severe it was. Decades of bullying. So anyway, because of that, I started to see angry facial expressions on these bullies whenever they were trying to intimidate me. And I would respond with tensing my body. I would respond from running away sometimes. My mind, my thoughts would start racing. What if they kill me? What if they're going to hurt me? And over time, I created a procedural memory that whenever I see those facial expressions, I'm going to subconsciously start to tense my body and start to entertain all of these irrational fears, etc. So have I desensitized myself to negative facial expressions, angry facial expressions? A lot, yeah. But because I have so much painful past learning history with that, like that's going to be something I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life. Anytime that I'm around people and they make an angry expression towards me, like especially like if it's like a big tattooed biker dude or just people that are just angry, I immediately check my body and it's always tensing. I mean, I feel it in my legs, my chest, my arms. But yet if I wouldn't have actually consciously checked, I wouldn't have noticed it because it happens subconsciously. But anyway, what's happening is whenever it comes to the negative procedural memories, you're experiencing things via your five senses through something called neuroception, which I'll talk about that in one of the 10 fundamental truths about stress, trauma, and dissociation. But neuroception is basically our brain determining if we're safe or under a threat subconsciously. It's not a cognitive process, and it's not a perceptual process. It's totally subconscious because our perception takes, I think, like 400 milliseconds to activate, but neuroception activates, I think, within like 40 milliseconds or less. And I give the example in the course of I was walking with my friends whenever I was like 15, 16 in these woods, and all of a sudden my body mobilized into offensive action, and I stomped on a snake's head, and the snake's head actually came off, and I killed the snake. And then I didn't even perceive what was going on until after the snake was dead. So through neuroception, I took in the snake through my five senses, my brain did. It determined that it was a threat, and then it mobilized me instinctively into offensive action, and then the snake died. That had nothing to do with a cognitive process, a perception process, or even a conscious process. It was all subconscious. It was all it was all instinctive. So that's what's happening throughout our day. Is through neuroception we are experiencing things that are similar to things that have happened in the past that we have a fear-charged association with. So think of a memory, all right, which I'm trying to determine if you should do this. Think of something that's not like traumatizing or anything, but just think of something negative that happened in the past, all right? And let's even say with a person, all right? Not traumatizing, but just something that was negative, maybe an annoying boss or something, okay? Now I want you to put them in your head. I've already got my person, which this isn't her name, but I'll just say her name is Regina, okay? And whenever I think about her, there's a very, very subtle shift that happens in my physiology. It's so subtle that if you're not using bodyfulness, then you're going to miss it. But there's a very, very subtle, yeah, seriously, just thinking about it, I feel myself hunching over. I feel this, it's like a preparedness that starts to happen in my body. And that's just, and she didn't cause trauma, right? Why is that happening? Am I intentionally causing that to happen? No, that's happening through neuroception, right? Because I'm visualizing through seeing her in my memory, I am tensing my muscles because there's a fear charge connected to that memory that activates muscle tension. And what happens is we walk around for months or years in a constant fight, flight, freeze response, meaning that we're highly, highly stressed. And because of that, we start to turn all kinds of things into threats that are not threats because the logical part of our brain shuts down. And because we have all of these stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline pumping through our veins, everything just feels scary. And what happens is, remember, our brain is taking these snapshots all the time, taking pictures. And because we're tensing our body, because we feel afraid, all of a sudden, there's a pairing between that memory, that snapshot, that picture, and this fear, this tense physiological state, maybe a negative focus, irrational fears, etc. And all of a sudden, all of these things that we're experiencing via sensory input start to have a fear response attached to them. And these memories are no longer neutral. They're charged with fear now. And because our brain, our nervous system, and our body are blind when it comes to being able to determine if something is a physical threat or a perceived threat, our brain, body, and nervous system can't tell the difference between a perceived threat and a legitimate threat. We have to retrain our brain, body, and our nervous system. We have to recondition them, and that's what self-regulation is for. Now, you got to get educated about what's going on, of course, but that's basically ultimately the purpose of self-regulation is we're perceiving threat where there is no threat based upon painful past learning history. Things are sensorially similar. There's a picture, a snapshot stored in our brain that has a fear response associated with it, a charged up fear response associated with it because of how we responded when we were initially around that thing and experienced it via our five senses. And that is our new subconscious response, especially if we responded with fear continually. The more that you respond with fear, the more that charge gets built up in association with that picture or whatever you're taking in via your five senses. So we have two options at that point. Once we have all of these hundreds and thousands of fear-charged associations, sensory associations, we can either avoid them altogether. We can just avoid being anywhere that's outside of our comfort zone, which is usually our house, and thus feel relatively okay, even though you're probably still going to be anxious. In fact, you will be because you're avoiding, and avoidance causes our brain and nervous system to think that there must be a tiger present. Because again, it's our brain, body, and nervous system are looking to us and the cues, the signals that we're sending them to determine if we're under threat moment by moment. So that's why you've got people that skydive, and they feel totally calm, or they can go mountain climbing. Like there's people that feel calm in the tallest buildings in the world, which is actually me now. I went to one of the tallest buildings, the CN Tower, and I felt totally calm using self-regulation. I can be in all kinds of situations and remain calm. But anyway, so one response is we can avoid the situations altogether. But that causes us to give up living life, okay? We don't want to do that. We want to be able to engage with life. The second option is that we can slowly reintegrate with life while simultaneously changing the signals that are being sent to our brain, body, and nervous system that we're safe, and thus beginning the desensitization process, okay? Or as my friend from Canada would say, process. let's do that. Let's do the desensitization process, because the end result is that you're going to be able to keep living life, and you're going to be able to not be dominated by stress, and get to do the things that you love. So with that being said, you're perceiving threat where there is no threat based on painful past learning history. And what's happening is whenever you tense your muscles, your sympathetic nervous system is activating, okay? Which is responsible for stress symptoms. And imagine that your sympathetic nervous system is like a gas pedal, all right? Your muscles tense, gas pedal gets pressed down, and then if you don't do anything to interrupt that, well, let's say it starts here, it's just gonna go down, down from mild stress, high stress, traumatic stress, and then bam, brake pedal of our parasympathetic nervous system slams down, and then we dissociate, which is basically our nervous system's way of just taking us out of the situation, because there's so much tension in our body. Maybe we feel overwhelmed by our environment or existence that our brain and nervous system and body are like, let's just take them out of existence. Let's just take them out of their body because it's too tense right there right now. They can't be present right now because it would just be too overwhelming. And also, our brain, body, and nervous system think that a tiger is eating us. So thus, feeling out of your body, feeling like everything is a dream world, is a way to feel less present. Because the more present that you are, if you're being eaten by a tiger, the more pain that there's going to be. So that's why understanding is so critical. Because if you just tell people to self-regulate, they're never going to just do it. You have to have that education first. And that's why I've got currently 39 videos in the education pillar, is because this is like important. If you have to understand what's happening, that we are literally perceiving threat all day long. The more trauma you have in your past, the greater your history with traumatic stress, the more triggers that you have. And you're not even going to know what most of them are, but the way that you know that you're being triggered is the state of your body moment by moment. So with that being said, we have to do something to interrupt these false alarms that are going off. And if we don't interrupt these false alarms, we're going to end up in what's called sympathetic dominance, which it means that we constrict our body, the gas pedal of our sympathetic nervous system gets pressed down, and then we react in fear, we continue to tense our body, we obsess over our symptoms, boom, 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 pedal to the metal, traumatic stress, boom, dissociation. So what's going to happen is whenever we're self-regulating, whenever we're noticing that tension and then releasing it, whenever that gas pedal gets pressed down, when our muscles tense, we're slamming down the brake pedal of our parasympathetic nervous system, except it's not going to be dissociation. There's two functions of our parasympathetic nervous system. There's actually more than that, but for the sake of example, there's two. One of them is dissociation, which is once we reach that traumatized state. But the other functionality of our parasympathetic nervous system is an overall sense of rest throughout our day. We should be walking around under the government of our parasympathetic nervous system on a daily basis. The only time that gas pedal should get pressed down, technically speaking, is whenever there's like a physical danger. But we know that the gas pedal is going to automatically start to get pressed down because we're perceiving threat based on painful past learning history. So what happens when we self-regulate is once that gas pedal starts getting pressed down, stress starts to happen, boop, we are slamming down the brake pedal of our parasympathetic nervous system, which activates rest. And then the gas pedal gets lifted off. And in that moment, whenever the brake pedal of parasympathetic rest is down, we are living free of the trauma of the past. That puts us in a state of safety, meaning that if there is emotions that need to process, if there's things that need to heal, if there's any body shaking that needs to happen, maybe to discharge fight or flight energy, all of that's going to happen. Listen, let me simplify this whole thing for you. We simply need to get out of a state of survival, and our body knows how to heal itself. Okay? Like, you don't need years and years of therapy and talking about this stuff. I mean, you may, like, that's your own thing, right? I have to give the disclaimer. Listen to a licensed mental health professional over me, of course, and go to a doctor over me, of course. I'm just a former sufferer of what you're going through. But I'm telling you guys, this process is very, very simple. We just have to get out of our threat response. We have to get out of survival mode and into a mode of safety. And once we're in a state of safety, everything mentally, physically, emotionally will start to heal by itself. Okay, just like which I don't know if you can see this, but this is almost healed up. But this was from, I accidentally stabbed myself with a knife. I reached into my pocket knife was sticking out, and I reached my hand in, and it went like in through my hand, not through my hand, but like under my skin, etc. Well, it's healing, right? It's just naturally healing. I don't have to think about it. I didn't have to put in a lot of work to it. No work, actually. I mean, but this is actually maybe a good example. I created the conditions for my wound to heal through cleaning it and through keeping it covered to make sure stuff didn't get it infected. So what you're doing whenever you're self-regulating is you're keeping yourself in the right conditions for healing to take place, as far as processing emotion, discharging fight or flight energy that happens through shaking in your body, as far as your brain healing and getting back into a state of safety, right? Because whenever you enter a state of safety, your prefrontal cortex shuts off, which is the logical part of your brain, and your memory fragments. It's like a plate, breaks into 1,000 pieces. You're not going to be able to remember things correctly when you're in a state of survival. You're not going to be able to think clearly because critical thinking is offline. Creative thinking, logical thinking, that's all your prefrontal cortex. It's offline. So there's all these things that happen, but you don't have to directly fix that. Right? Dissociation, depersonalization, derealization, stress, trauma symptoms, right? All the ones that I list in the education pillar. You don't have to like directly confront those things. All right? That's like confronting exhaust smoke in a car, right? You can do that all day. You can try to, plug up the muffler or whatever, you can try to get it to go away however you want. It's not going to work. You have to shut off the engine. All right. You have to change the state of the car to a state where that exhaust smoke is not on, which is an off state. And what happens is whenever you self-regulate, let's say that using that example, the exhaust smoke starts coming out of the tailpipe. Okay. Because the gas pedal of our sympathetic nervous system gets pressed down whenever we constrict our body. Well, whenever you self-regulate or release that tension and then shift your focus, you're slamming down the brake pedal, and let's say that the car just shuts off, okay? What's going to happen once the car shuts off? Your exhaust smoke is also going to automatically shut off, right? That's why you have to be state focused and not symptom focused. So with that being said, don't try to directly overcome your symptoms. Change the state that you're in, and then your symptoms will automatically shut off, the ones that you don't like. And then, so there's that. So with that being said, what else would I like to say? So self-regulation is relaxation, but general relaxation is not self-regulation. When we typically think of general relaxation, we think of like yoga, we think of deep breathing exercises, maybe listening to music, or just anything that within a few minutes we can get into a calm state. It usually takes minutes to achieve a calm state whenever we're talking about general relaxation. And also it could be cognitive or it could be physiological. Sometimes maybe positive thinking, mindfulness, being aware of your thoughts, which I don't teach mindfulness. I'm not against it, but I don't think it's necessary once you understand bodyfulness and self-regulation, which I'll talk about in a second. So anyway, it takes several minutes or at least a minute. And also it requires you to get away from the trigger. It's a lot easier anyway. Okay, well, I'm stressed out today. I'm just going to go in my room where it's safe and I'll just do yoga, right? Or I'll do deep breathing, or I'll listen to music or play games. Well, that's a problem if you still have to live life. You can't run away every time that you get triggered, because if you have a history of traumatic stress, your muscles are going to be tensing probably all day. So it's not practical to need to escape every time that you're triggered. You'd have to literally run into your closet like, hundreds of times a day. Well, that's why self-regulation is different and more powerful than general relaxation. I'm for general relaxation, but self-regulation is much, much, much more powerful because number one, you get to stay in the presence of your trigger, whether you're conscious of what the trigger is or not, without having to run away. Number two, self-regulation only takes 1 to 3 seconds. It's very, very quick, okay? And in fact, it'll start taking you 1 or 2 seconds the better that you get at it. See, I just self-regulated just then, all right? See how quick that was? I just relaxed. There was some tension in my legs, and then I relaxed my body. Boom. It literally took like 1 second. Also, self-regulation is powerful because it allows you to very quickly, and quickly being a subjective term, it's going to take different times for everybody. It allows you to quickly begin the process of desensitizing yourself to hundreds or thousands of triggers. Whereas if you escape to your room or to your house or your safe place, you're avoiding the trigger, so thus you're not desensitizing yourself to them. And desensitizing, what I mean by that is you're slowly getting rid of that charge of fear that is associated with that trigger, whatever it is coming in via sensory input. You're slowly getting that charge out, right? I'm trying to think of an example. You're draining the batteries, okay, of these fear-charged memories that are causing these subconscious muscle constrictions. Right now, let's say that they're fully charged, okay, and then slowly, I'll use an illustration. Like my phone right now, I think it's at 100%, all right, or close to it. So at the end of the day, it's going to slowly charge or drain the battery till it's not even there anymore. That's what you're doing with these fear-charged memories. Anytime that you release that tension and then shift your focus, is you're creating a new procedural memory, which is a new subconscious response once you're around that thing. And what you're going to find is the more that you self-regulate, the more that charge is going to go away, to the point where there's going to be hundreds of triggers, most that you'll not be cognitively aware of, but you'll notice, especially some of them, that you do know why you're being triggered. But you're going to so drain the battery of those fear-charged memories that literally there's going to be little to no muscle constriction, like at all, which means that it's not going to trigger you anymore. Now, like bullying, for example, I've been self-regulating for years now, but every single time that I go out, whenever people give me bad looks, I start tensing. Even just now, just thinking about it. See, that's how aware that I am. And that's really the purpose of this video, guys. I know I'm kind of going all over the place, is I just want to just pour into you everything that I know about this so it clarifies some things. But like literally, I am so aware of the state of my body now because I've practiced bodyfulness now for years that it's like there's a magnifying glass on what's happening in my body. Now you would think, oh, well, doesn't that make you anxious? No, because of my response to it. Now this is not obsessive self-monitoring. Obsessive self-monitoring is where you feel out of control because you're experiencing symptoms, and you feel like by obsessively monitoring yourself, maybe researching, Googling your symptoms or whatever, you feel a sense of control because your symptoms make you feel out of control. Obsessing over them makes you feel in control. But you're not doing anything to change your symptoms with obsessive self-monitoring. No. Bodyfulness is not obsessive self-monitoring. Bodyfulness is remaining aware of your body enough to recognize these muscle constrictions and tension. Constriction and tension, same word. Same meaning, rather. To the point that you can release that tension and then focus back on something else. It's that simple. And so there's that I wanted to say. But sorry, going back, I've got so much painful past learning history with people, right? Whether it be bullies or just bad people that I connected with. Most people are good people, but I've connected with some pretty bad people. Like just looking at people in the face. And if they give me an angry look, my body starts tensing like crazy. And to be honest with you, it's going to do that for the rest of my life. Because again, every time you self-regulate, the battery's draining a little bit more. You're decharging, you're uncharging these fear charged memories slowly. But if that battery is charged up to like 100,000%, then it would take 10, 20 lifetimes to uncharge it to the point that it's at 0%, which would mean no muscle constriction once you experience that thing via sensory input. And that's okay. It's no big deal though, at all. I don't see it as a burden at all. In fact, I see it as a blessing that I know how to do this. I mean, do you know how few people live free of stress? Like, I literally can't remember the last time that I stressed. Like, that's amazing. So it's like I invest maybe 10 minutes a day, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, in staying aware of my body, like every 4 or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and keeping my muscles relaxed. And the benefit is I can be in virtually any situation and not be scared. And also, I have this ability to calm people down now. Like, I was talking with a friend of mine. I'll say this, family member. And this person was flipping out on me. And this person was not understanding the truth about what was happening. So I used something called co-regulation, which is basically me keeping the other person calm, helping them regulate their body and nervous system through me staying calm, through my vocal tone, because it was over the phone. But I kept saying, keep yourself relaxed. I was intentionally talking calm. I was like, keep yourself relaxed. And I was keeping my muscles relaxed. And that was every like 10, 20 seconds, I had to relax my muscles, okay? And then shift myself back to the conversation. So I would talk, boop, relax, boop, talk to my family, boop. About 20 seconds later, whenever you're in tense situations, you're gonna have to self-regulate more than every 10 minutes. That's part of what I wanted to clarify as well. 10 minutes is not some magical number. It's all about doing it as much as you need to based on the situation. Like, this morning, I didn't have to self-regulate for like 3 hours. Like, literally, like I just didn't do it because there's nothing that was triggering to me. And if there was a trigger, I've become so aware of my physiological state that I would have noticed it. So I want to go deep on that here in a second. But anyway, I was able to calm my family member down. And I was able to say, hey, I love you. And this is not you, okay? This is you in survival mode, okay? And I just calm yourself down a little bit, and we're gonna get through this. This is the truth about what's going on. And I love you, and you're not believing the truth right now. And it took about 45 minutes, but whenever this person got into a calm state, he looked back and said, oh my goodness, that wasn't me back there. I was yelling and freaking out. I said, no. And I said, and I don't judge you for that either. That wasn't you. That was you in survival mode, in attack mode, like tiger killing mode. And that totally changed his life, okay? That totally changed his life because he had never realized that you don't have to flow with your threat response. He's got a history of traumatic stress too. And he was perceiving threat because there was a conflict, okay? And the gas pedal was getting pressed down. He entered sympathetic dominance. He entered full fight or flight mode. I don't think he was traumatized, which means that he wasn't overwhelmed beyond his ability to cope per se, but the pedal was to the metal, okay? But he entered sympathetic dominance, and thus he was dominated by stress, and thus his prefrontal cortex shut down. No logic, no critical thinking, no clear thinking. He was being irrational. He was lashing out. I have to plug this in. Hold on one second. So anyway, but I taught him how to self-regulate. We spent a few minutes, and I taught him what I was doing, and it absolutely, totally changed his entire life. And he just kept saying, oh my gosh, why haven't I done this for years? And I was like, my friend, you can do this anytime that you want to. And it changes your relationships. It changes, sorry about this. It changes everything. So that's what can happen is you can become somebody that literally never gets angry. Hold on. And you can become somebody that literally like nothing makes you. Okay, I hear the lawnmower, so my neighbor may be mowing the lawn, but I've invested so much into this, I'm not going to shut it off. So if you guys hear that, yeah, thank you for mowing the lawn right now. Okay, relax my body. It's okay. Okay, so what I want to say now is that for a lot of you, you hear, okay, am I going to have to check my muscles every 10 minutes for the rest of my life? Like that doesn't sound pleasant. That sounds like too much, you know? So you are going to have to self-regulate for the rest of your life, especially if you have a history of traumatic stress, okay? If you want to live free of stress, you've got to self-regulate for the rest of your life. And dissociation, if you have to self-regulate. Now, how often you have to self-regulate is going to be malleable depending on the situation that you're in, depending on how many triggers are present. But the more that you self-regulate, the less tension that's going to happen in your body, okay? For most triggers, to the point that some triggers, poof, they're just going to eventually vanish because maybe you don't have that much painful past learning history with them. But you're going to find that your muscles tense less and less, and that they tense less and frequently. But this is what I want to say. I'm trying to verbalize this. It's not that I consciously check in like a certain time frame, right? Whenever I self-regulate. It's that I've become so aware of my physiological state moment by moment that I truly do, like, almost, I hate to say subconsciously, but I subconsciously, no, I guess it would be consciously, but how do I say this? I'm sorry, I'm trying to verbally process this. The tension in my body is so loud now because I've gotten so good at bodyfulness that I notice it very, very, very quickly and very easily. Wasn't always like that. So technically speaking, the constrictions are happening subconsciously. So maybe it's an anomaly. I don't know how to say this. I'm trying to verbalize what's happening because it's hard to verbalize this. Okay, so I just self-regulated. What did I do? I checked my knees. I put the focus on them, and then I relaxed my whole body. So it is a conscious process, but whenever you're in situations where there's like a lot of triggers, the constrictions are going to start to be so loud, like fireworks are going off because you're so aware now that you just have to shift your consciousness to your body just a little bitty bit. But it's not even that you're shifting your consciousness. It's called bodyfulness. It's through the felt sense. You're noticing these constrictions through your feelings versus through your mind, right? It's you're using the same level of awareness that you would use if you were to be furniture shopping. Like I'm sitting on this chair. If I shift my awareness to how this chair feels, it's not a cognitive thing. It's through what's called the felt sense. How does this feel on my body? I'm using my body to feel certain sensations. And that's what you're doing whenever you're using bodyfulness, is you're using this felt sense to become aware of how you're feeling. It's not a cognitive thing at all. It's a feeling through your feeler, if you were. And you'll start to feel things happening in your body that are so loud that literally if you're focused on your day and you start to get triggered, like if you just for a split second, if you take the focus off of the situation, focus on your body, it's going to be so loud you're going to immediately notice it. And then if you train yourself to just release that tension, it'll happen within 1 to 2 seconds. So here's what I think is happening. I think what's happening with me is I've learned, okay, this is good. I know this is kind of all over the place, guys, but I'm a verbal processor, so it takes me some time to get out what I want to say. But I think most people actually like this because it's more real and authentic. I've had to learn to accept that. I'm a perfectionist. But here's what's happening is I know that whenever I'm in certain circumstances, I have a greater tendency to subconsciously tense my muscles. So thus, I'm more actively aware of what's happening in my body, right? So, for example, I know that whenever I wake up in the morning, between the time that I wake up and the time that I'll shower, I'll listen to an audio book, I'll eat breakfast, I'll do stuff. I know, like literally, like I don't even really check my body much in the morning, and I also get in the hot tub every morning. That helps relax my muscles too. But anyway, but I do know that whenever I get on my email, that's whenever it's going to start happening. Whenever I do videos, whenever I talk about stress, trauma, dissociation, or if I go out into the world, like if I'm driving or if I'm in a social situation or at a restaurant or around people, like I know, I'm realizing now, I've just trained myself that, okay, I am in watch mode, okay? And I'm going to be checking my body about, every few minutes or so to see if there's tension and release it. So what I'm saying is you'll start to know the situations that tend to provide more triggers. And I think there's something about being at home that you're so familiar with everything that you're less likely to be so triggered at home. Especially like if you're on a computer and there's things that come in through a computer or a TV or phone or people come over, that's where it's different. But I'm just saying, you just waking up, going to brush your teeth and cook breakfast, all that stuff, like most of you are going to be so familiar with that you probably are not going to constrict your body much. So thus it's kind of optional if you even want to check in those situations. But it's all about feeling what's best for you, okay? But I know that as soon as I talk about this, like with you guys right now, I'm going to start tensing my muscles because I've got a lot of painful past learning history with a lot of stuff that we're talking about. And even just hearing the sound of my own voice talking about this can be a trigger through neuroception, because sound is part of our five senses. And if I have a fear charged association, right, if the batteries have not been fully drained for that sound, it's going to still cause me to tense my muscles. Okay, so that's what I've got to say for that part of it. Now let's get into some more of the practicals of this. So do you have to tense your body before you relax your muscles? No, and you don't need to do that. The only thing that I suggest people do is practice progressive muscle relaxation once a day for the first few weeks, maybe up to a month or two, because what progressive muscle relaxation does is it's going to allow you to start to notice the difference between relaxation and constriction. And that can be very, very, very helpful. It's necessary, in fact. You practice using the felt sense, right? Using bodyfulness to feel these constrictions, because you're intentionally causing them to constrict, and then you're intentionally allowing them to relax. Progressive muscle relaxation is where you start with your head, you go all the way to your feet, or start with your feet, go up to your head. You go through each muscle group, each set of body parts, you tense them 5 seconds and then relax them. And you're actually creating a muscle memory of how it feels when they're tense. So that way, whenever you are being triggered and you consciously check your body, you're going to notice it a lot quicker, because you're going to have this muscle memory of, oh, that's what my legs feel like whenever they're tense versus relaxed. That's what my shoulders or my neck or my jaw feels like, because I've been doing it once a day. But that's not self-regulation, okay? That's just simply a temporary exercise that you're using to get better at noticing these constrictions. Self-regulation, you're going to be doing, between 100 and 200 times a day. Progressive muscle relaxation, you're just going to do that once or twice a day, especially at bed, right before bed. I've got a video on that. I think in the self-regulation pillar, progressive muscle relaxation is amazing for that. I use it every single night. But whenever you're self-regulating, you're not going to be tensing your muscles before you relax them. I think where there's maybe some confusion is in the pelvic floor. In the pelvic floor exercise, one of the things that I do to help you become aware of your pelvic floor muscles is I ask you to tense it and imagine that an elevator is going up, and then relax them, imagine that an elevator is going down. So I think for some reason people are just thinking, okay, that's what I need to do. No, that is not what you need to do. That's just simply an exercise to show you what it feels like to tense the muscles versus relax them. Just like the goal of progressive muscle relaxation. So during self-regulation, you're going to bring your muscles from whatever state that they're currently at as far as tenseness to a fully relaxed state. You don't have to bring them up fully relaxed. Using the elevator example, you don't have to bring the elevator all the way to the top floor before you bring it to the bottom floor. Let's say there's 5 floors and it's at the first floor. You just bring it from the first floor to the bottom floor. If it's at the second floor, when you notice the constriction, you bring it from the second floor to the bottom floor. Whatever level of tenseness that your muscles are at when you notice the constriction is simply where you begin in your relaxation. You bring them from that level down to a level of fully relaxed through the wet noodle, through the pelvic floor relaxation. So hope that I think that was actually a good way to explain it. I'm always learning stuff. I'm a verbal processor, so whenever I talk about stuff, I process it better. So with that being said, I'm just gonna show you some different stuff, okay? So basically, let's say that you're in a situation that you know that there is a lot of tension that's gonna be happening. Then you know that you're gonna have to practice self-regulation quite a bit, maybe every few minutes, every 10 minutes, it's up to you. If you just want to just try to consciously remember to do that, that's great. In fact, that's what I've always done. I've never set a timer for myself. Or if you want to set a timer on your watch or phone or whatever, that's fine too, or get an egg timer for every certain minutes. 10 minutes is not a magical number. Set it however much you want to. But basically, you live your life, and then whenever you consciously decide to check, or you get reminded via the timer, you're going to check the muscle group that always tenses when you're perceiving threat. For me, right there. That's what tenses for me on my legs. And for you, it may be your shoulders, it may be your neck, it may be your chest, it may be your butt, it may be your feet, whatever it is, check those muscles. Don't, whenever I say do a body scan, I'm not saying go through each muscle group and see if there's tension. That's going to take way too much time. You just check the muscle group that always tenses up. So what I do is I'm focused on life, and then I will quickly check my legs. If there's tension, release it, bam, focus back on life. It takes me 1 second, literally 1 Mississippi, and it's done. I'm not, okay, see, feel my jaw. Is there tension there? No. Okay, now my neck. No. Okay, now let me tense it first and then relax. Okay, my shoulders, is there tension there? My chest, okay, and my tension. No. All of that stuff is not self-regulation, all right? Self-regulation takes 1 to 3 seconds. It's probably going to take you more on the 3-second side at first, maybe 4 or 5 seconds. But the better you get, the more that it'll start to be close to 1 or 2 seconds. But literally, you're focused on life. Check those muscles that always seem to tense, which I'm just going to use my legs as an example. Just imagine whenever I say my legs, and I'm talking about whatever muscle group that you have that always tenses whenever you're perceiving threat. So I'm focused on life. Let's say right now I'm talking to you guys, and I check my body, or rather I check my legs. There's tension. I relax my whole body, and then I focus back on you. And then I'll be talking for another minute or so, and I will do a quick scan of my legs, tension, release it, talk back to you. Talk for another few minutes, Okay, yeah, and I'll start to hear myself talking about like depersonalization, derealization, or trauma, and I'll know, okay, that's probably going to trigger muscle constriction. So okay, take the focus off, check my legs, or check my my thighs. If there's tension, release it, focus back on you, right? And whenever I say release it, sometimes I'll just relax my whole body, which is the wet noodle. Sometimes I will relax my pelvic floor muscles, which are like your pee holding muscles. Either way, whether you do the wet noodle or whether you relax your pee holding muscles, you're not tensing your body and you're not tensing your pelvic floor muscles before you relax them. You're just simply taking your body or your pelvic floor muscles from whatever level of tenseness that they begin with when you notice the tenseness to a state of full relaxation. And boop, you just focus back on something else. So let's use the pelvic floor example. I'm just trying to give you guys as much stuff as I can. I don't want this to last more than an hour. But okay, so let's say the pelvic floor. I'm talking to you guys, and like, let's say, especially if I know that I'm talking about something that's going to cause muscle constriction because it's got a lot of charge left in it, like let's say bullying, for example. See, just then I did a quick look at my legs. As soon as I say bullying, my legs very, very, very subtly will start to tense up. So I'm talking to you guys. I say bullying. Okay, quick scan. Are my legs tense? Yes. Okay, now if I want to use the pelvic floor, I could respond to noticing the tension in my legs with relaxing my pelvic floor muscles. And all of a sudden my whole body relaxes. Boop, focus back on you. That's it. Like, yeah, that's it. So I'm focused on you, talking, check my legs, tension, relax my pelvic floor muscles. I don't tense them first, just relax them fully. Bring them from, like, let's say first floor down to the bottom floor, or second floor down to the bottom floor. They're rarely going to be at the top floor, okay? In fact, almost never are they going to be at the top floor. Just bring them from whatever level the elevator is at down to the bottom floor, and then that's going to cause your whole body to relax, and then boop, focus back on whatever you're doing. That's it, guys. It's that simple. And you know, like, let me throw this at you. I didn't teach this in the actual core stuff, but if you're watching this, it shows that you're really wanting to know as much as you can. So I'll throw this at you. You can try it. I highly suggest the pelvic floor relaxation or the wet noodle. Even if you just relax the muscles that are tensing the most, that can also be enough sometimes, maybe all the time if for your situation, to interrupt this false threat response that's happening and trigger parasympathetic activation. So basically what I'm saying is, like my legs, for example, if I notice that they're tense, if I check them, they're tense, sometimes I can just release the tension in my legs and then change my focus back to something healthy. And that's enough for me to interrupt the false alarm that's happening. So maybe that's something with you. You take the muscles that tend to tense up the most and just relax those and then shift your focus. That simplifies it even more. And if that gets you the results that you want, if you start to notice yourself in a state of safety and you'll start to feel stress, trauma and dissociative symptoms shutting off, great, do that. I'll also throw a few other things at you, which I intentionally did not mention breath stuff in self-regulation because we have this proclivity to complicate everything. And it seems like whenever you include breathing in self-regulation, which I did that on my last edition of the course, a lot of people, like, they start to obsess over their breathing and stuff. So this isn't going to be for everybody, but one thing that you could do seriously to create a relaxed muscle body, one diaphragmatic breath. Literally, you're focused on something and you check your, like, for me, it's my legs. There's tension. Okay. Bam. Focus back on life. One diaphragmatic breath activates parasympathetic nervous system function and will be enough to interrupt this false threat response that's happening. So yeah, literally just do that. One more thing, which I I didn't mention this at all in the course specifically because I haven't been able to see results with it. But it's something that a friend of mine who's brilliant in the area of traumatic stress, like PhD and all the fancy stuff, one of the things that he does, he says that they teach this actually in the special forces, is basically what you do is you focus on a certain point wherever you're at, and you let your vision come out and push to peripheral vision. And to get started, you could actually put both hands up like this, and you can let your vision shift from whatever that point is to here. And what this person says is what that can do for some people is it takes them out of sympathetic activation, because sympathetic activation, you get tunnel vision. You're focused on this. So by intentionally widening your vision, it actually, for some people, will activate your parasympathetic nervous system, take you out of your threat response, take you out of sympathetic activation. So you put your hands out here, you're focused on a point. Now slowly let your vision come out to where your hands are. Now, whenever you're doing this in action, you obviously don't have to put your hands out. You just simply will be focused on that point. Like, let's say it's this camera. My focus is here. I'm going to use my hands to show you what my vision is doing. Okay. There. And then after you did that, you would shift your focus to something healthy. Listen, hey, if you try that and it works for you, that's awesome. Listen, guys, there's no one right way to self-regulate. Like, as long as you end up in a relaxed muscle body and it interrupts this false threat response that's happening throughout your day, and it only takes 1 to 3 seconds, that is self-regulation. Use it. That's great. I like to keep things as simple as possible. And the pelvic floor relaxation and the wet noodle have been the simplest and quickest ways to teach people how to self-regulate, especially with the pelvic floor, because you've held your pee many, many times, right? You held that pee with your pelvic floor muscles. So it's always best to start where people already know something and build on that versus introducing an entirely new thing to them, such as the special forces exercise, you know what I'm saying, or maybe even a diaphragmatic breath. But by the way, with the diaphragmatic breath, if you want to know what it means to breathe through your diaphragm, put your hands like this. Maybe you ran track in high school or whatever. You used to do this when you were done. Well, that's to slow your breathing and get you breathing through your diaphragm. It forces you to breathe through your diaphragm versus your chest. So when you breathe like that, notice how much your chest moves. Very little, okay? Another thing you can do is put one hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach. Let me show you. Okay. Now I was breathing quickly to show you the example, but that would be a diaphragmatic breath. Okay, and sorry about the lawnmower. My neighbor, like, he mows his grass literally like 3 times a week. I don't know why he does that. Like, just let it grow, can't mow your grass anymore. Okay. But anyway, that's how you breathe through your diaphragm. If you get into chest breathing, you're not going to get enough oxygen to your body, so thus you're going to hyperventilate. So you definitely want to make sure that you're breathing through your diaphragm on a daily basis. But again, once you introduce breath work, it becomes so complicated for people, and they don't know if they're breathing right, and then they start to breathe through their chest, and then it makes them more afraid. So anyway, guys, that is all right. Let me throw another thing at you. This is something that some of these are a bit unorthodox, but I just want you to try and see whatever works for you. So Tony Robbins actually teaches the need to shift your physiology and your focus, which, if you haven't heard of Tony Robbins, he's like one of the world's leading personal development coaches. And you may have seen him on the movie Shallow Hal. But anyway, so basically, he teaches that if you can jump up and start celebrating like you just won the lottery, like, yeah, like that can radically shift you out of a state of sympathetic dominance or sympathetic activation. And I've tried it, and it freaking works. Now, obviously, it's a bit, unpractical to do that if you're like at work. Like, you can't like notice constriction in your body and then jump up, yeah. Like, you can't do that 200 times a day. But I'm just throwing that at you. That is something that you could do if you just were really in your threat response, and maybe you're having trouble doing any of the other ways to self-regulate. Just jump up and down like that, and I'm telling you, it's very powerful. And then shift and have a healthy focus. And the focus part is really important. I have a whole video, the importance of shifting your focus after you release the tension in your body or interrupt the false threat response. But some people are commenting and saying, hey, I have a really hard time shifting my focus. I don't really have anything that really changes my focus enough to the point where I'm lost in it. Well, find some stuff. That's why you got to write out some goals. You got to get something that that you're passionate about. See, for example, like me talking, and I just self-regulated, by the way. I checked my muscles. They were a little tense. I relaxed my pelvic floor muscles that time. And then boop, took 2 seconds. And nobody notices that you do this. So it's edifying too, because it's not embarrassing. Like if you had to leave the room and do yoga or go to your safe spot. But anyway, some people were saying that, gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what I just said. People have said a lot of stuff, but they've said, I don't remember. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's the lawnmower. I don't know what the heck happened. Oh yeah. Your focus. Yeah. Some people have, sorry, I'm saying, some people have said that I have a hard time finding something to focus on. Well, you've got to write out goals. And what I was going to say is, whenever I'm talking to you guys, like right now, I'm in a flow state, which look at the Yerkes-Dodson chart in the course and the education pillar, and you'll see where the flow state is. But I'm in a state right now where I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. I love helping people. I live for this, okay? And it's amazing what happens. Just self-regulated again. Sometimes whenever I talk a lot, whenever I get really passionate, my muscles will start to tense and I'll have to relax them. So I've probably self-regulated about 30 or 40 times just in this hour, guys. So it's all going to be, how often you do it is going to be dependent on the situation and how often that you're being triggered. And certain situations are going to be more triggering than others. It all depends on what you're doing, where you're at, what you're taking in through your 5 senses. But anyways, I think I've covered pretty much a lot of stuff to get you started. Give it time. This is something brand new, and make sure to watch all of the videos in the entire course. But especially when it comes to self-regulation, watch the videos 20 times, every single video that's in here. Even watch this video. I mean, I know it's an hour, so you may not watch this more than a couple times, but literally you've got to go through the process of reconditioning, and it takes some time to do that. You're trying a brand new approach, but one of the things that I did in the course is I actually made a video where I just put comments of people that have reached out to me and said, I didn't think I was tensing my muscles at all, but wow, now I see that I am. And then I started self-regulating, and it was like a game changer, and it's really helped me. I get that all the time. And nobody thinks that they're tensing their muscles because it's not noticeable unless you're using bodyfulness. You're using the felt sense to feel these. And if you haven't been taught that, then you're not going to notice them. You notice the symptoms that happen once you reach sympathetic activation and, of course, sympathetic dominance. But because those are, your mind starts changing, you can't concentrate, you can't remember, you can't think logically. Maybe there's you feel disconnected from your body. We really notice all the brain stuff or the mind stuff, the psychological stuff, because that just totally interrupts our life. I mean, that's how we live, is through our mind. It's how we determine what we do and where we go and how we live our life. But what's behind all that? The man behind the curtain, if you've watched The Wizard of Oz, is that we're perceiving threat subconsciously based on painful past learning history, and it's causing us to tense our body in preparation for fight or flight response. Nothing to take that, to put the brake pedal on, we're going to end up dissociating. Or maybe we don't actually reach traumatic stress, but we just live with that gas pedal halfway pressed down all the time. That's general anxiety. And then if you're experiencing panic attacks, if you're already walking around with the gas pedal halfway pressed down, generalized anxiety, it doesn't take that much for you to get to a panic state, which is right before traumatic stress. So let's be preventative. Let's keep the gas pedal from staying down altogether, which is what self-regulation is for. So yeah, some days you're going to self-regulate 300 days, especially at the beginning. Some days you're going to self-regulate, 50, 75 times a day. It's all dependent on how proactive you want to be in this process. But the more that you do it, the quicker that you're going to desensitize yourself to your triggers, and the quicker that you're going to remain in a state of safety where you can start to heal, and your mind, body, emotions can process, and you can start to move forward in life. So take this very, very seriously and make it a discipline. Well, in the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I gotta say about that. I think that, no, one more thing, which I said this in one of the videos, but if you check your body and there's no tension there, like if I check my legs and they're not tense, I'm done, right? That's it. I don't do anything after that. Literally, boop, it's like half a second. Boop, nothing there, boop, back on you, right? So throughout your day, let me give like an illustration without the time element, because I'm not going to sit here for like an hour. You guys will get bored. But like, all right, so I check my legs, no tension, back on you. All right, doing this video, boo, 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 20 minutes later or 5 minutes later, whatever, check my legs. Okay, no tension, back on you guys. Took half a second. Boop, 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 boop. Why am I making that noise? I have no idea. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, check my legs. Okay, now there's tension. Relax my pelvic floor muscles, back on you. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking about symptoms now. Okay, I'm going to start checking probably every minute or two or so. And okay, I'm checking my legs. Yep, there's tension. Okay, relax my whole body, wet noodle. And then boop, you can choose whatever way you want to self-regulate. You can switch it up. Doesn't have to be all the pelvic floor or all the wet noodle or all the different ways that we've taught. I do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you have to mold it to that specific moment, whatever feels right. For me, whenever I'm sitting down, it's harder for me to do the pelvic floor relaxation. It's much easier for me to just relax my whole body. Whereas if I'm standing, the pelvic floor is much easier because I don't know, it's just a lot easier. And then boop, 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 living life. Okay, having a fight with my wife. Okay, like every 10 seconds, I'm gonna be doing these scans, checking my legs, looking back at her, checking my legs, looking back at her. Okay, they're tense, relax them. Okay, 10 seconds later, check my legs, tense, relax them, or rather relax my body. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, the fight's over. Now I'm going to start having to do it less. You see what's happening, right? Boom, boom. Let's say that right now you're the focus. You represent life, living life, encountering all the situations, your job, your school, social situations, people, places, things, all that stuff. Okay, and then my legs are all throughout my day, right here. Okay, this is how I'm determining if I'm perceiving threat, is the conditions of this part of my legs. And if they tense, I know that I'm perceiving threat, and then I relax my whole body or my pelvic floor muscles. So really, to simplify this whole thing, pretend that my thighs represent whatever muscle group you use to determine if you're perceiving threat. Boom, 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 boom. And then this represents life, living life, okay, and all the stuff that comes with that. Boom, boom. This is what's happening, right? 200 times a day. You're checking and seeing if there's tension. If there is, you release it, and then you focus back. Checking it, no tension, then you just immediately check it back. Boom, 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 boom. Now, again, this isn't obsessive self-monitoring, okay? Because it is self-monitoring, but it's self-monitoring with a purpose, and it's not all the time. It's just every so often, right? And you set that time. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, like every 10 minutes, when you maybe if you just want to do it when you remember to, if you can be good at that. I'm pretty good at just remembering to do it. Whenever you're in certain circumstances that you know are especially triggering, that's where you just really make that a priority for that situation. Okay, I'm going to be self-regulating just as often as I can because I know that I'm going to be perceiving a lot of threat here. But just boop, 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 boop. If there's tension there, you release it in the form of wet noodle or pelvic floor relaxation. You don't tense them first. You just relax your body from whatever state it's in, or relax your pelvic floor muscles from whatever state that they're in, whatever level of constriction they're in, and then focus back on life. Boop, boop, boop. Like, that's this whole thing simplified. So this video was for anybody that wanted me to give you as much as I could, which there's more that I could say, but I didn't want this to go over an hour, so we're already over. But just anything that you can chew on to really get a grip of this. And I hope that this helped you. And guys, share your stories with me. You know, comment, email me. I'm going to post this actually in the course only version, and also in the version that has access to the forum and monthly live Q&A and all that stuff. But anyway, either post on the forum if you have access to the forum, or email me, theanxietyninja@gmail.com. If you start to see, when you start to see success with this, tell me what works best for you, especially if you use that special forces exercise. I'm very curious, because if that works for some people, I want to start promoting it more. I haven't been able to see any results with it, but we're all different. So, and the person that I talked to that teaches that, he says, especially like, you know, people that have a military background, they really relate with that or whatever, and see a lot of results. But anyway, I don't teach anything that I haven't seen results with, but I wanted to at least give that to you. But let me know, and I'll add your little story to the video in the course where people share success with self-regulation. So yeah, there's a chance to encourage people as well. That's it. Love you. You're awesome. You're going to beat this. Stress, trauma, dissociation. It's going to be a thing of the past. Oh, see, I literally, my legs started tensing. I felt it. I felt them like swell up a little bit, like, and then what I did is I just noticed it. I didn't squeeze up and then relax it. It was like this. And then I went, like that. That's it. So hope this helps you guys. That's it. Okay. I'm talking way too much. Bye. Love you. You're going to beat this. Bye.